Okay, so the West Nile virus, also abbreviated as the WNV, I'll just say West Nile virus because it's easier to say right now. It's obviously a viral infection because it's a virus. This is typically found in Africa, Europe, the Middle East, North America, and West Asia. It stays prevalent in nature due to birds and mosquitoes. It's a member of the Flavivirus genus, and it belongs to into the family of the encephalitis antigen complex for the family of Flaviridia. Yeah, yes, I believe that's how to pronounce it. Sorry. Um, the way that it's transmitted is basically a mosquito will give it to you. A mosquito will bite you and give it to you. These mosquito bites can infect horses and other mammals as well. The way that the mosquito contracts this virus, though, is from an infected bird. So, what the mosquito will do is it will feed on the bird, fly up, stick its tongue into the bird, and then it will contract the virus. This virus stays in the mosquito just for a few days, so not too long, but still it can stay in for a couple days, and then it can give it to now another mammal. Crows and jays are the more common birds that have been seen to be linked to have this virus. This virus, however, is not spread through human, or I guess not, okay, no, it's not the correct word, but it's very unlikely to be spread from a human to another human. A very small portion of human infections have occurred due to an organ transplant, blood transfusion, and breast milk. There's actually been one singular reported case where there's been a transplacental transmission of the West Nile virus. So, mom delivered baby, and baby got the virus through the delivery process from mom. It typically has an incubation period of about 3 to 14 days. For the symptoms, around 80% of the people who contract this virus will be asymptomatic. They won't show any symptoms. They won't even know that they have the virus, probably. For that other 20%, here's a list of symptoms that they may develop. They may get a fever, a headache, they may get some tiredness going on, they get some body aches, nausea, vomiting. Sometimes they can develop a rash like on their trunk region and some swollen lymph nodes. So the West Nile virus can lead to a neuroinvasive disease, neuroinvasive disease such as the West Nile encephalitis, the West Nile meningitis, and the West Nile pi, pa, pl- sorry, polymyelitis, which is basically infection of the brain. So like not infection, sorry, inflammation of the brain, like the lining of the brain and the spinal cord, which would be the meningitis, and then inflammation of the brain and the surrounding membranes around it. When someone has one of these neuroinvasive disease, which is the most serious ones, they can have symptoms such as a headache, they can get a fever, they can have a stiff neck, so, they can have suture, they can have stupor, which is basically just like a state of you being like near like unconscious and like you're just insensible. Just imagine like you're what it feels like to be super drunk. They can be disoriented, they can go into a coma, they can have tremors, convulsions, some muscle weakness, and paralysis. About approximately 1 in every 150 people who contract this virus will develop the more severe form of it, which is kind of scary to think about. But also, you have to contract the virus. For prevention, there's not really much that we can do to prevent it. There are no vaccines and there are no medications to treat the West Nile virus. Typically, the government, it surveys new cases in birds and horses because finding them in birds and horses is really good early preventative measures to make sure that we don't contract it as humans. Surprisingly, there is a vaccine for humans. I mean, sorry, not for humans, for horses, but there's not one developed for humans. Treatment would only occur if so 80% of the population is asymptomatic when they get the virus, so there would be no treatment for them. But for that 20% that do get it, they'd just be treating the signs and symptoms that they present with, and then that percentage that gets the neuroinvasive disease, they would have to need hospitalization, and in the hospital, they'd just be treating them with fluids, respiratory support if they need that, and just preventing them from like secondary infections, like such as UTIs, going septic, and anything like that. So the major concern with this virus is the neuroinvasive disease, because that can cause major issues. And they can have lasting effects after someone is healed from it, or they can just straight out kill someone. Basically, the only way to combat this virus is to just raise awareness of the different risk factors. So, reducing mosquito transmissions is huge. Doing things just such as wearing mosquito repellent, having mosquito netting in your houses, wearing light clothing, and like avoiding activity during peak mosquito like biting hours is really good. So like typically we see mosquitoes around like that dusk area time when the sun's setting down. And you see like swarms of them during the summer, or they're flying around. Just like avoiding doing things during that. It's really hard to avoid mosquitoes, but just the best things that we can do is just avoid getting bit by them so we don't contract the virus. So here's a little graphic, the mosquitoes, going back to the mosquitoes biting the bird gives it to us and the horses. And these little guys always causing problems. A lot of they're vector of a lot of diseases because they carry a little blood right there, and then they bite you, and then now you got whatever they had in there. So anything that prevents mosquitoes from biting you. Mosquitoes are attracted to sweat, which is a major thing. Making sure that you change out your clothing after you do an intensive workout. And making sure the little ones are covered, because the little ones are typically more more susceptible to getting infected by the more severe things. So protecting them, making sure they're covered up from mosquitoes would be good, because they can't tell you if they were bit by one until it might be too late.